Welcome to the Big Brand Hack, where we deconstruct what big brands do to market themselves. Now, this is so that smaller businesses and entrepreneurs or anyone who's into marketing can take these learnings and apply it to their business. For the show notes and case study video, do visit bigbrandhack.com and check it out. My name is Serene Loong, and I'm the Big Brand Hack founder and host. In today's episode, we will be discussing how a traditional HO institution stays relevant in the digital age. In fact, they took the problem that they had head on and turned it into a solution. Joining us in today's discussion, I am very honored to have my old friend, Creative Director Daniel George Wan. Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to in your agency Catalyst?
Hey Serene, thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here. I don't profess to be a guru in advertising, but what I can share today, is mostly about what I've learned in that 20 or 30 years.
But the difference between choosing Catalyst and, say, a big MNC, what would you say is the difference?
The difference? We're faster because we are more nimble.
Okay.
I worked through all my life in big agencies. Started out in Beatty Advertising, moving on to Y&R, and then even to the MNC Saatchi. I think that's where we met. Yeah, that's where we met. And all my learnings have been shaped by the big boys. You've got a good MNC experience all packed into this tiny body. So why do clients come to us? Basically because you're getting more value for what you end up paying. Every now and then we do hear clients saying that, wow, the big agencies are more expensive, the local ones I'm not so sure. So we walk into clients and we tell them that, hey, you've got, a lot of MNC experience, in Catalyst, but we don't charge you so much because you don't have to pay all the middle management, all in between, from our AEs to our AMs, etc., young junior art directors, all the way up to the chief creative officer.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, this is exactly what we're doing. It's called the Big Brand Hack because what we do is we break down what big brands do to market themselves. And so literally we are unlocking big brand secrets to marketing, which is what, big MNCs do. And we make it accessible and usable for the smaller businesses. So let's dive into today's case study. We'll be talking about the New York Public Library's campaign Insta novel, which is by the agency Mother from New York. So many in the book publishing industry, the library is facing the problem of declining readership. After all, how many kids do you see holding books versus, say, their mobile phones? So what is a public library to do to get the next generation to read? So let's take a listen to what they have done according to the news organizations.
Well, it's hard to get kids, even adults, to put down those phones these days, and it may be even harder to trade that phone for a book.
Books have found a new life on Instagram.
New York Public Library has the solution. They are now putting entire novels on their Instagram stories.
The new series is called Insta Novels.
Insta Novels.
It includes original illustrations as well as the entire text of the book. Books will be uploaded in full and archived, helping turn the New York Public Library's Instagram highlights into a digital bookshelf.
What a novel solution to bring classic literature to Instagram stories. Daniel, what's your immediate reaction to this campaign?
Brilliant.
Gotta agree with you.
Right? It's really, really brilliant. When I first heard it, I think it was, it made me want to rush out and grab a real book to read, having seen the case study video, and I just think that it just resurrect, that spirit in you, that dormant spirit that kind of died after you stopped going to the library to want to pick up that book and read again. I find the campaign extremely clever. I wrote down 3 C's. Like, it's so clever. It's very current. It's also very creative. Why clever? Well, they took Instagram, flip it on its head, and they push the medium to give something people don't expect, coming from Instagram. It's current because the ad agency, they really know who their target audiences are, and they reached out to them in the most current way possible.
Yep.
And creative, judging by the case study video, and even when I went into the NYPL account, the execution is so amazing. It's just so creative. The illustrations were like beautifully animated. It almost feels like they found a new way to persuade you to read.
Pardon the pun. Bringing classic literature to young readers via Insta story. I mean, effectively, they've turned one of the world's biggest and most favorite social media into an e-book reader. And, just to share with our listeners, it has worked tremendously well. Within 24 hours, the library gained 13,000 new followers. So far, more than 300,000 and counting have read Insta novels. More than 150,000 new Instagram followers were garnered. And their campaign was covered by more than 700 news outlets, including the New York Times and The Economist. So just like what Daniel mentioned, he said it was very current and very clever. Yeah, I do think that what was nice about the campaign and really did it a lot of favors is that you really didn't expect it to come from a 125-year-old institution. I mean,
right.
This is days of yours, right, where you have the printing press, etc. I mean, that's when they were started 125 years ago. And this old institution is doing something so current and so new. It created what we call, a disruption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are some lessons that our businesses can take away? Number one is make sure you're disrupting the norm. So you got to ask yourself right now, is your marketing unexpected? And, in the sense that if, let's say, you're doing a Facebook campaign, will what you do stop someone in his or her tracks, as they scroll mindlessly through their feeds every day? So does it have that disruptive quality? I think that's what Daniel was talking about when he said it was clever and current, in that, that's our media consumption habits right now. And he also mentioned about they totally know who their audience is.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. I was just reading about the campaign, and the director of digital media from the New York Public Library, Richard Snoor, he said that the mission is not just about getting the maximum number of Instagram followers possible, but it was to actually inspire people to read more. And I was heartened by that because, so many times whenever we meet clients or even ourselves, we're always looking for a vanity metric, right? We look at how many new followers do you have? But they were not so much interested in that. They were more interested in the fact that their campaign did more than marketing for them. It was a medium for people to read classic literature. So you can literally get, the whole entire text of Alice in Wonderland on Instagram.
When I was looking at what Mother has done to NYPL, I asked myself, it's like reading digital books on your phone. So a question arose. So the question was so what's the big deal? Let's say our listeners might ask, right? It's just reading. You've got Kindle, you've got ebooks. The difference between that is at the end of the day, it is still a digital library, right? So what I think Mother has done to NYPL was they actually took, what's very classic and traditional, digitize it, but not just digitizing it in that sense. They go into social media, and that's where their target audiences are. To me, it's extremely clever. What's also very, very clever is that when they went straight into Insta stories, right, everything's immediate. And you know what Insta stories are like, right? It's very now. People get to see it now. From Insta stories, you can, of course, put it down into your highlight. And then that's where you can, slowly take your time to read.
I think what Daniel is pointing to, which I'm hearing, is that if you look at the target audience, if you did an ebook version and put it on Kindle or Amazon Fire, it would be targeting the converted, because those people are already readers. So the what is interesting here is that they're targeting a whole group of young people who are probably, not Kindle owners. They are just on their social media feed, and yet they manage to turn, Insta stories into an ebook reader, digital library. So I think they managed to widen the appeal of an ebook by using that medium. And the other thing that is really amazing, if you look at Kindle, right, they actually don't use backlighting so that it's easy on the eye, so that you can read for many hours. But the fact that this is on a mobile phone means that mother had to do a lot of crafting and consideration to make sure that you were able to read a whole book on your mobile phone. And talking about craft, I mean, Daniel is a master of, art direction when I was working with him. And it takes so much effort to really craft something. What do you think of the crafting?
I was very drawn to all the 5 stories that were on their IG, like Alice in Wonderland. If you think about it, the story begins with her falling into a hole, right?
Yeah.
For someone who picked up that book, I think you need to plow through, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 pages before you get into that moment. But for what Mother has done to NYPL, it's so instantaneous that in the beginning, you see this graphic of her falling into a hole via the animated illustration. So the background kind of like spins. And that actually drew me in. And I thought that if you're looking towards this group of people who are essentially not reading, visually they're very, very captivated. I think that's the now generation. We call them millennials. I think that's the overused word.
I mean, what you said is totally true. So I read that Karina Falusi, who's the chief creative officer at Mother New York, she shared that actually 90% of the effort for this campaign actually went into the crafting of it.
Wow.
So, creating those amazing visuals that literally draw you in. They really think through things like what should the background color be. So I think they chose like a cream colored background to make sure, the words are legible. They had to consider how big should the fonts be. And in fact, for every classic piece of literature to live as an Insta novel, Mother would need to spend 3 whole weeks just to do the crafting. And as we mentioned, she was most proud, not just when someone becomes a follower, but when they actually finish an entire novel on IG.
Yeah, you spoke about craft just now. If you look at the way the typography was done on all the stories, it's so beautifully crafted. Of course, there are pages where, they make you feel like you're scrolling up reading a book, but on occasions where the story takes on a different turn, you see the type actually moves along with the event of how the story actually turns out. So if you're listening to this, you haven't checked out NYPL, I encourage you to start off with Alice in Wonderland. I think that's the most animated, most captivating of the series, and it will definitely draw you in to want to finish the books. So I believe what NYPL wants to do is to teach people or remind people all over again the joy of reading. That hopefully through this little, Instagram stories, Insta novels, that it will kind of like change that person's mind to go like, hey, maybe I should, revisit the library, or maybe even I should go out and grab a book.
Get them to fall in love with
with
reading
book again.
all over again. Thanks, Daniel, for being here.
Hey, thanks, Serene. Thanks for inviting me. Really appreciate what you've been doing with Big Brand Hack. And we'll talk soon.